שאלתי אותה
Shabbat Shalom, good evening. Welcome to all of you who are joining us from your homes. Welcome to all of you who are joining us in the sanctuary this evening. We are following service number 4, and
which you can find on page 84.
Which you can find on page 84, absolutely. If we forget to remind you of the page numbers if you're here in the sanctuary, and I admit that it's quite difficult to see them on the screen, then just look really lost at us, and hopefully one of us rabbis will notice that you're all lost. But for those of you who are joining from your homes, it's a little easier, it's on the screen. Draw near, eternal God, as working day turns to Sabbath rest. You have been with us all the week, and yet we have often forgotten you. Now, kindling these lights, we say your name, remembering the love you have shown us. And in gratitude and thanks, we turn to you to bathe our hungry souls in your kindness.
On page 84, and if you would like to rise in the sanctuary and in your small sanctuaries, as we light our candles together. Baruch
Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Please be seated. O chadash al Tzion ha'ir, v'nizkeh kulanu meher'a le'or'o. May new light shine upon Zion, and may we be worthy to see its splendor. On this day, may we see the world in a new light. On this day, let us be freed from desire for gain, from ambition for material things. On this day, let us look beyond time and space towards eternity and know the blessing of peace.
Adonai Tzevaot, Nisava v'gam kalata, nafshi lachatzrot Adonai, libi usari yeronanu el chai, gam sipo matzabayit udaroken la, asher shata efrochecha et mitzpachotecha Adonai Tzevaot
As the sparrow finds a home and the swallow has a nest where she may lay her young,
So do I seek out your altars, my sovereign and my God,
happy are those who find their strength in you.
whose hearts are full of your praise. And just to make sure that everybody's hearts are full of praise, for everybody in the sanctuary, you're welcome to join in with us as well with the responses. So please do join in with us. And at home, we really very much hope that you're singing and reading with us. So we're on page 85, and
Passing through the driest valley, they find it a place of springs.
blessed with pools by the early rains,
They go from strength to strength.
they appear before God in Zion.
God of the hosts of heaven, hear my prayer.
Give ear, O God of Jacob.
One day in your courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere.
I would rather stand at the threshold of your house than dwell in tents of wickedness.
Eternal God, you are a sun and a shield.
Your gifts are grace and glory.
You withhold no good thing from those who walk uprightly.
Eternal ruler of the hosts of heaven, happy are those who trust in you.
The royal crown. אתה שורף בתוך עמי, שאש שבת בני עמי. תהא חכמה לנפשך, ותתהדר לנושך, נצור מצוות קדושך, שמו שבת קודשך.
Please rise.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Praise be the one to whom our praise is due.
We praise the Eternal One, to whom our praise is due forever.
And on page 93, please be seated in the sanctuary or at home. Sorry about that page drop.
Yeah, we're not so used to announcing the pages anymore, but you may be seated
We
on
read
page
together.
93.
Baruch
אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בדברו מעריב ערבים, בחוכמה פותח שערים, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומבין לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
אהבת עולם, אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשובנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. והחבטך אל תסור ממנו, אל תסור ממנו לעולמים, לעולמים, לעולמים.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Please be seated. And on page 95, all this we hold to be true and sure. You alone, eternal one, are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You have freed us from oppressors and delivered us from tyrants. You led us out of Egypt forever to serve you in freedom. When we witnessed your power, we praised your name and gave thanks. Willingly we accepted your rule. Then, full of joy, we sang together.
מי כמוך בלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותחננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך, והגן בעדנו, והסר מעלינו אויב דבר, וחרב רעם יגון, והרג ממנו עוון ופשע, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי אל שומרנו ומצילנו אתה, כי אל מלך חנון ורחום אתה, ושמו צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו, ועל כל יושבי תבל.
Please rise. Eternal God, open up our lips, that our mouths may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu,
אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל.
מלכי
Na'man ata lahachayot metim. Baruch ata Adonai, machayei hametim. Kadosh ata v'norah shemecha, ve'en lanu Eloah mibaladecha. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
And if you wish, please be seated.
Sharon Israel et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
And together, our
God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, Eternal One, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Vetzeh Adonai Eloheinu b'amcha Yisrael, u'tfilatam be'ahava tekabel, u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch ata Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yira na'avod.
And together,
Modim anachnu lach, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן ישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך, שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות.
Supreme source of peace, grant true and lasting peace to your people Israel. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all peoples may be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. We praise you, O God, the source of peace.
We'll take a few moments for silence. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer.
עושה שלום מרומם, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל בני אדם. עושה שלום.
May the Most High, source of perfect peace, grant peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world.
It's our privilege this evening to celebrate a birthday with a member of our congregation. And It's a wonderful way to celebrate a birthday. Mark Schultz, who is joining us from his home, contacted me this week and said, it's my birthday this Friday, and I'd like to be able to do something in the service. So I said, how about doing the sermon? And most people would run away from it, but he did not. And so it's really our privilege to be able to invite Mark to give the sermon. But before he does so, we are going to say a Shehechianu blessing for him.
A Shehechianu for him and for all of those who also are coming into the sanctuary for the first time. Either for the first time ever, as some of you are doing, and also for those who are coming into the sanctuary for the first time for, well, a good long while. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, that you have kept us alive, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this season.
And we'll turn over to Mark.
Who am I, and if so, how many? I've always considered this somewhat curious title of a book by philosopher Richard David Precht as just a funny eye-catcher to arouse curiosity in potential readers. Until I read this week's Torah portion. It contains a miscellany of laws and duties, some inspiring, some gruesome. But some of them can teach us an important lesson on identity and our role in supporting others in building it. According to social psychologist Peter Weinreich, a person's identity is defined as the totality of one's self-construal, in which how one construes oneself in the present expresses the continuity between how one construes oneself as one was in the past and how one construes oneself as one aspires to be in the future. In other words, identity exists in the tug-of-war between how we have been seeing the world and our place within it, and what we hope the world of the future is going to look like. So clearly, we are not just one, but many. We have a gender identity, an occupational identity, a national identity, and many, many other identities. Some important to us, some less so. For millennia, people have used clothing to establish boundaries between different identity groups. In our Torah portion in Deuteronomy 22 verse 5 we read, "A woman must not put on man's apparel, nor shall a man wear woman's clothing." This commandment might have been an attempt at securing the patriarchy that was the fabric of Israelite society. Rashi and even Ezra, however, believed that this law was designed to prevent illicit sexual intercourse, because women dressing like men to consort with men can, in Rashi's words, only be for the purpose of adultery. To me, this idea is so utterly absurd, offensive even, that I was tempted to outright ignore it. However, the still ubiquitous discrimination of trans people, in particular trans women who are still frequently denied access to ladies' rooms and women's shelters on the grounds that they might be wolves in sheep's clothing, is just one example telling us that, despite the tremendous progress we have made as a society, we are still struggling with the same old prejudices that have haunted people at least since the days of Rashi. Clothing is not only used to maintain gender boundaries, though, as we learn in Deuteronomy 22 verse 11, where we are told to not wear cloth combining wool and linen. With this prohibition, the Torah likely seeks to set apart high priests from ordinary Israelites. Because according to Exodus 28 verse 6, the high priests were not only allowed, but indeed commanded to wear this combination. In Exodus, the Israelites are told to make garments for the high priests, and I quote, "of gold, of blue, and of crimson yarns, and the fine linen worked into designs." In ancient times, though, only wool could be dyed, so the yarns that were to be combined with fine linen must have been wool. On the one hand, establishing visual boundaries between the high priests and the ordinary people makes a lot of sense, because being the high priest accords authority. just like wearing a police uniform does. On the other hand, people are often denied their occupational identity without proper reason. Women engineers can tell us a thing or two about that, as many of my female co-workers tell me. And it's not only them. To this day, women in general must often fight to have their occupational identities acknowledged, notoriously manifested in a substantial, scientifically proven pay gap. Yet, such boundaries between identity groups are not always out in plain sight. In Deuteronomy 23 verses 4-5 we read, "No Ammonite or Moabite shall be admitted into the congregation of the Eternal. None of their descendants, even in the 10th generation, shall ever be admitted into the congregation of the Eternal, because they did not meet you with food and water on your journey after you left Egypt, and because they hired Balaam, son of Beor, from Pethor of Aram Naharaim, to curse you." But how can it be just to deny someone a share just because of where they were born, or because of what their ancestors did or did not do? Clearly, no 10th generation Moabite has ever chosen to be a 10th generation Moabite. And doesn't the Torah tell us in Deuteronomy 24 verse 6 that parents shall not be put to death for children, nor children be put to death for parents, but a person shall be put to death only for his own crime? Of course, this commandment refers to capital punishment, but being denied one's self-construal can lead to death, metaphorically in the sense of an emotional death, but also very literally. Unfortunately, the injustice of being denied a share on the grounds of one's descent is still all too familiar. We all have seen people who have made their home in this country being told to go home as if they weren't home already. And we all have seen people being disparaged and even imprisoned for trying to find happiness in another country, just because they happen to have been born elsewhere. But what do we learn from all this? What do we learn from a prohibition against cross-dressing, against mixing wool and linen, and against admitting Ammonites and Moabites into the congregation? We learn that Peter Weinreich told us only half the story. Identity surely is the totality of a person's self-construal. But it is not only that. We also need others to acknowledge our self-construal, our identity. We need them to relate to us accordingly. This, however, confers incredible power on us. Power to deny our fellow their identity, but also power to help them build it, and to become the person they aspire to be, they need to be, they can be. May we always use this power wisely.
Amen.
Amen.
Shikoyach, and happy birthday. And we are delighted that the Ark Synagogue, Mark, has been able to welcome you into its sanctuary this evening, despite you having been born and living, at the moment at least, in a different nation, a different country. We really look forward to the time when you're physically within this sanctuary, just as you are within the body of this community right now. We now move on to our concluding prayers, and you can find them on page 520, page 520, and please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו.
אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלאכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. The bottom of the next page.
To feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. We have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts. For what they were is part of what we have become. On this Shabbat we recall the art sites of Aubrey Feinberg, the father of Michael, of David Driffel, the father of Doffy Aarons and grandfather of Debbie and Philip, of Geraldine Freeman, the mother of Sandy Edelman, Jean Betty Gerstein, the mother of Howard, Jeffrey Soloway, the husband of Val, Catherine Jane Davis de Biagio, daughter of Barbara Austin and sister of Lucy Morris and Ruth Ford. Norman Dankner, the father of Ellie. Renee Cohen, the mother of Simone Pitt, mother-in-law of David and grandmother of Daniel and Joni. Saul Phillips Soler, the father of Janine Leppard and grandfather of Jared and Brooke. Stephen Conradi, the brother of Richard. And Trixie Drapkin, the grandmother of Jonathan and Jane. And we're saddened by the deaths this week of Neil Drapkin, the husband of Cynthia and father of Jonathan and Jane, and Scar Bacchus O'Callaghan, the friend of Rowan Ellis. We honour them best when we live, as they would wish, responsibly and happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. On page 524, we read Kaddish together.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'gala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mavarach le'olam ulamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yithadal v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran balma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei adam, v'imru amen.
May great peace descend from heaven, and abundant life be granted to us, to all Israel, to all peoples, and to all those who mourn. And let us say together,
Amen. Amen.
Please be seated.
In a moment, we are going to conclude with Erev Shel Shoshanim, which you can find on page 651. Page 651 for Erev Shel Shoshanim. I'm not sure that we have a great deal of announcements, but do join us again tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock as normal, or if you would like a shorter service, you can join us at 9:30 for a retake of our Tot Shabbat.
Now, absolutely. Now, the one thing that is significant that's going on at the moment is that this year, it didn't happen last year, but this year, Kadima, our summer camp is going on, and many of our young people within our community are celebrating their first Shabbat there. It's a real highlight for all of the young people. And if we had been there and you had said that one word, announcements, they'd have been banging on the tables and singing away. Maybe we'll have to do a rendition at some point in time so everybody gets the feeling of the summer camps. But to all of the parents, to all the grandparents who are missing their kids or grandkids, they'll be back shortly, and know that they are having an absolutely fantastic time. And we're so delighted that so many of our young people are celebrating and able to celebrate Shabbat together on this week.
Absolutely.
And we hope that their evening, because they're outside camping, is going to be something like this.
Shoshanim, Netzeina el Habustan, Mol Besamim ul Lavona, Lerabadef Miftan, Laila Yored Le'ad, Ve'ruach Shoshan Loshva, Hava el Hashlach Shir Balad, Zemer shel ahava, Shacha homoyana, Roshech ma'alet halim, Pichel haboker Shoshana, Ektefenu li, Laila yored le'ad, Ve'ruach Shoshan loshva, Shlach shir balad, zemer shel ahava, Laila yored le'at, beruach shoshan loshva, hava elcha shlach shir balad, zemer shel ahava.
Please rise. And it's wonderful to be able to say to all of you, Baruch atah b'vo'echa. May you have felt blessed when you came in. Baruch atah b'tzeitecha. May you feel blessed as you depart.
And we are going to join together for Kiddush, so that we are all still together. And then I invite those of you who are here in the sanctuary to join us outside. I think it's not raining, so we'll be okay. You can have a little bit of challah outside. And those of you who are joining from your homes, please do join us on Zoom. Do join us to say Mazel Tov and well done to Mark. I can see him blushing. At least his emoji blushed. So because there were so many people commenting on how wonderful the sermon was.
We're delighted to welcome one of the trustees of Liberal Judaism, Hannah Stevenson, as well this evening. It's wonderful to have you with us, as well as so many of our wonderful members and regular guests here as well.
Absolutely. So do join us in the blessing, even if you don't have a cup yourself. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, B'Shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila lamikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'chalta, v'otanu kidashta, mikohamim, V'Shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai,
Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
And we
Rabbi
say
Leah
them.
has the challah.
I know. I will keep it covered so that you can all afterwards eat it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
So if you're joining from your small sanctuaries, please join me in a few moments on Zoom. You can join right now. And otherwise, for those wonderful people here tonight, and as I said, there's lots of firsts here, people who are here the first time, so please make sure you introduce yourselves as well. And Rabbi Leah will help compare that as well, if she can untangle herself. Shabbat shalom.